Welcome in. It is 9 a.m. on the East Coast. This is your 6 a.m. West Coast wake-up call in all time zones in between and around the world. It is Daniel Wortman coming to you live from the Dreamagine Sports Studios. Wednesday, June the 12th. In just a few minutes, we will be joined by Jess Nash. And really excited to have her on to talk to her about her work up in Wisconsin. And also, if you were sleeping under a rock in the last 24 hours, you missed a world record performance by the U.S. women's national team. 13 goals, 0 conceded. What a match. 13-0. Now, I'm going to make a statement right here at the top of the show that some of you may or may not like, but here it goes. The U.S. women's national team could have scored more goals in that game yesterday than they may score for the rest of this World Cup. Now, I'm not going to go to Vegas and place a bet on that. I'm just stating the fact that when you score 13 goals in your opening match, there is a very real possibility that as the competition gets tougher, as the matches get closer, that you may not score 13 the rest of the tournament. So, as giddy as all U.S. women's national team fans are today, and we are excited to see any aspect of American soccer excel. We've got to tamp that down just a bit in terms of the excitement and understand a couple things. Number one, it was the opening game. It could have been even bigger score. That's true. However, Thailand is just not any good. Plain and simple. They're just not any good. So, it's kind of like when you have a, middle school, right? You think of this in a middle school way. You have a kid that's hit his growth spurt, and he might be, 5'10", 6 feet, and then you still got the kid that hasn't even started growing yet, and he might be like 4 feet tall. And you have this 2 feet differential between the two kids and quite a few pounds difference. And so the 6 foot kid bullies the 4 feet kid and there's not much chance of that kid that's 4 feet tall able to win any kind of fight with a bully. And that was what we saw yesterday. And when I say bully, I am not in any way saying that the U.S. women's national team were bullies. I'm using that as an illustration. The U.S. women's national team, played for 90 minutes plus extra time in the way that you should try to play in this way, that you compete for 90 minutes. And it's up to the other team to stop you. Now, there are ways you can go about doing that. You can always be looking to score. You can be looking at retaining possession for a while and then trying to score. But you have to look at the way the U.S. women's national team play. When they play against an inferior opponent, they can get score lines like this because they are set up to play really more of a direct possession-based style. They are not a possession-based style in the same way that Spain is set up. Spain is set up to play and keep the ball in the midfield, in the back, and move you from side to side, probe, and look to pick their spots. I would say that the way Spain plays is much like a cobra that's waiting for the right opportunity to strike. The U.S. women's national team, patience may not be the right word, but they don't like to wait very long to attack. They want to get the ball. They want to play. They want to make their runs and they want to get another attempt on goal. And that's the style at which they like to play. That's the tempo in which they like to play. And they came up against an opponent yesterday that couldn't stop them. They were not set up to stop them. You could even argue that they didn't try to stop them tactically, didn't even try to stop them. They just tried to kind of play their game, and everything that could go wrong for Thailand did in terms of execution, etc. Everything that could go right pretty much did for the U.S. women's national team. I mean, they could have even scored more. But when you watch the two teams play yesterday, I mean, it was clear that there was one that was a giant, that belongs on the world stage, that plays with a level that many countries aspire to reach. And then there was another national team on the field yesterday that didn't belong on the same field, quite frankly. The quality is just not there for them yet. And so kind of looking at this performance, it's fun to get excited about that performance. Does this translate throughout the tournament? Probably not. This was a match of two completely unevenly disproportionate, whatever words you want to use to describe the matchup in terms of you had a juggernaut and you had a team that was completely inferior in all ways to the U.S. women's national team, and they were no match. The U.S. women's national team, just to put this in perspective, the U.S. women's national team has a 13-goal differential after their first match, and this was the last match of the opening round of the World Cup in France. 13-goal difference. Every other team in the tournament that has a positive goal difference means they won their opening game. All of the other winners combined have 17 goal difference. That is how much of an anomaly that this performance was yesterday. Now, does the 13-goal differential hold up as the U.S. women's national team continue to compete? Do they continue to have results that are 4, 5, 6, 7 above their opponent? Or is this just an outlier? And I think this is probably just an outlier. If you look at the way the U.S. women's national team have been performing over the last few months getting ready for this World Cup, they've not been going around and just blowing the doors off for 90 minutes. They have, scored multiple goals in games, but it seems like it's taken them 60 minutes or so to get ready. This match yesterday, they were ready from the beginning. Thailand wasn't ready from the beginning, and that was all she wrote. And for anyone that is giving the U.S. women's national team grief for celebrating goals, you can sit here and say, well, I would have done this different. I would have done this differently, whatever. When is the next time that a team is realistically going to get a chance to score at will in a World Cup? When is this specific group of players going to get that opportunity? Maybe never. So going through and Alex Morgan scoring 5 goals and others getting a chance to score, some getting a chance to score for the first time. I mean, I don't know if you saw this, but there's video out of Lindsey Horan's parents in the stands celebrating their daughter's goal. And someone turns them around and asks them, what they're celebrating or why are they so happy or whatever. And the answer is, that's our girl, that's our baby girl right there or out there. I'm paraphrasing. Just a special moment. It's a moment that they're going to never forget, and they shouldn't, and they should celebrate it, and they should be happy that they got an opportunity to watch their daughter score in a World Cup. I mean, quite frankly, if every player on that team could have gotten a chance to score, they should have scored. I mean, you never know if you'll ever get another chance. That may be the only goal, World Cup goal, that some of these players may ever score. Now, we hope not as fans of the U.S. women's national team, but you never know. And so when you have a match like that, you go. I mean, I'm reminded of whenever you watch a college basketball game and you have the managers, they never get to play, right? The walk-ons. And you get in a game where it's really, really lopsided and you may be like way up or the other team that is way, way down. They both will kind of empty their benches and they'll put in, kids that have never gotten a chance to play or very, very little minutes. And the crowd goes crazy when one of them scores. And yesterday, the U.S. women's national team are scoring and scoring and scoring. They put up 10 goals in the second half. 3 in the first half, 10 in the second half. Thailand were just out of gas. They had no more energy. They just couldn't keep up, and the U.S. women's national team just kept running through them. And they kept scoring, and they kept scoring, and they kept scoring, and they kept celebrating. And then people get all offended that the U.S. women's national team are celebrating World Cup goals. It's not as if this was a friendly. This game matters, and goal differential matters. And is 13 goals going to be a threat in the group stage? No. But again, why stop? If you have the ability in a World Cup to score, go score. It's up to the other team to figure out how to stop. If Thailand were that concerned about 13 at goal number 7 or 8, they could have put just 11 people behind the ball and just stood in the 18-yard box and said, we're just going to play kick the ball out. But they didn't do that. They kept trying to play. Kudos to them to keep trying to play, and kudos to the U.S. women's national team who kept playing. And their direct style of possession is what led to the 13 goals. But look, I've watched plenty, as a Barcelona supporter, I've watched plenty of games in the Pep era and even some games since where Barcelona, not in a direct possession style like the U.S. women's national team, but were so good on the day that they scored 8 goals in a La Liga match, a match that mattered. And they were continuing to score at the end of the match. Guys were still making runs, still trying to get on the end of a pass, still trying to connect and get the ball in the back of the net. They were already up 7-8-0, and they were still trying for more. Because as a competitor, that's what you do. You compete. And this is a big point for all of the people out there who have been critical of the U.S. women's national team. And in their defense, you need to understand something about competitors. Competitors are not just competing against the competition. They are also competing with themselves. That's why greatness is seen in the world of sports. If you're at the top of your game, you're not competing with everyone else around you as much as you are competing with yourself. You're always pushing yourself. You're always internalizing the competition. You're not necessarily looking around to everyone else to figure out when you should compete, what level you should compete at, how hard you should go. You have an internal standard. And that's what you saw yesterday, that there were U.S. women's national team players on the field playing to an internal standard. They compete. They're competing with themselves. They are working. Now, you can argue, should Jill Ellis have left certain players on the field? Should she have subbed some players off? Well, sure, you can make that debate. Does the scoreline likely change? Probably not. That's how uneven this match was. But regardless, it was a night for us to enjoy, U.S. soccer fans to enjoy. Today, the lineup for the World Cup as we enter into round 2 of group play. Nigeria and Korea have already kicked off. It is 0-0 in the 16th minute. Later at noon Eastern, Germany and Spain will face off. And then later at 3 p.m. Eastern, France and Norway. So we got some good matches to watch today, and I don't believe any of these are going to end up 13-0. I don't know that we'll see anything this lopsided for quite some time. And yet another reason in my book why the U.S. women's national team had every right to celebrate and to play and enjoy the night over in France. So kudos to them, and congratulations on that win. 13-0, historic night. And it's a night that those players will never forget, nor should they, and we should all celebrate with them. And we will see how it goes from here. I have a feeling it's going to get much tougher, much harder, and the test will be much more difficult to overcome. But for that opening night, they had a great night, a night for the ages and for the record book. So the sponsor of this half hour is Dutkig Brand, DUTKIG brand.com is how you can find all of the really, really cool products that are made by Dutkig. And they have, soccer journals. And when I say soccer journals, I don't just mean like it's a notebook with paper and you just write on it or draw on it. No, that they have things that are soccer specific products, and these products include field diagrams and the ability to take notes and chart plays. They have player journals where you as a player can watch a game and ask, see questions that you can ask of yourself and of the game to chart and learn and learn how to process the game. Really, really cool things that you can find at dutkigbrand.com. That is DUTKIG brand.com. And when you go there, use the promo code DWSHOW. Again, that is DWSHOW to get 10% off your order and support this show at the same time. And I'm sure that they would love for you to come and check out everything that they have to offer. It is quality stuff. I have personally ordered almost every single thing in the store and have been blown away at the quality. I mean, they even have waterproof journals and paper. I mean, anybody out there who's ever coached, set your notebook on the ground and you're getting it up and it's wavy paper that's waterlogged, waterproof paper. So check it out at dutkigbrand.com. We will be right back after this with Jess Nash. Welcome back into the show. Thanks for tuning in this morning. We are delighted to have joining us Jess Nash. She is the Director of Coaching for the Youth Academy of Rush, Wisconsin, also with the Wisconsin ODP and Rush Select. Jess, sounds like you have a full plate. Welcome to the show this morning.
Thanks for having me.
So give us a little bit of before we get into all the things that you do, and it sounds like you sleep in your spare time. Give us a little bit of background in terms of, how you got involved in the game. Where did this love affair with the game of soccer begin for you?
Yeah, well, I started, I'm from Rockford, Illinois. I started playing at a young age and just loved it. And was fortunate enough to pursue it in college at Buena Vista University. It's Division III, played 4 years. It was there I kind of realized that I wanted to start coaching. And so after graduation, I was a graduate assistant through Iowa State University, where I was working toward my master's in higher education leadership, and also was with Iowa Lakes Community College, where I helped to start the women's program there. And so it was really great experience, and also had an opportunity to coach high school team there in Northwest Iowa and club, and started my U.S. soccer coaching education during that. I moved on to coach with Bettendorf Soccer Association, closer to Illinois, but still in Iowa. And I was an age group coordinator there, and wanted to also use my master's degree, so I went to work at St. Ambrose University on the academic side, and had a great experience working with first-year students and second-year students, helping them transition to college, and had the opportunity to advise students and teach some intro to college courses during my 4 years there. And also had a little stint of being a referee assigner, which was a pretty unique experience. Didn't ever think that I would get into anything to do with refereeing, but it was a good opportunity to work with over 200 officials in the Iowa, Illinois area, and I did that for about 5 years, and all at the same time. And then my husband actually was going back to school during that time where I was working at St. Ambrose, and he got a job after graduation in Madison, so we picked up and moved, and I started with Rush, Wisconsin Soccer Club in Madison, Wisconsin, and that has been a great experience for me. I've been involved with Rush Select, the Rush Female Coaches Alliance, and then also have been helping out with the state of Wisconsin's Olympic Development Program here as well. So I have just had a great time, and just Midwest, I guess all over the Midwest coaching, but I'm enjoying my time here and happy to be on your show.
So I guess I need to ask a question, which is, where does this drive for you come in terms of wanting to, whether it's through higher education or through, being a director of coaching, leading, but that it seems to me, just hearing you talk about your journey and your path, there's very much kind of this coaching, and by coaching I don't mean profession coaching. I mean it's part of your character. It's part of who you are. This coaching leadership mantle that you seem to always looking for opportunities to lead and to step up and to coach. Where do you think that comes from?
Oh man, I don't know. I think I've just been so fortunate to have such a good community around me. And I've been fortunate enough to have a good village of people. I was a first generation college student. So when I went to college, I had no idea what I was doing. And I relied so heavily on, the student support services, to help me navigate the college atmosphere and environment. And the same goes with soccer. Playing at that level, I was new to it. My family had never done that. And so I was just very fortunate to have so many good people surrounding me that I want to be that for other people now. And so that's why I try to be part of the village.
Now, as a player growing up, before you even got to a place where you could get to college, what was your player pathway like? Were you playing, travel and club? Were you playing mainly locally in your city? Kind of what were those experiences and development opportunities like for you?
Yeah, I grew up playing AYSO actually. My parents really weren't aware of the whole club scene or really couldn't afford it even if they were aware of it. So I grew up playing AYSO and, had a good time. And I was very fortunate enough to play through school with high caliber athletes who went on to play at high levels. And so they helped me improve as well. And Rockford is a pretty good soccer scene. There's good soccer around, so there's good athletes around. But I did a lot of pickup in the neighborhood, and part of what's missing now, is that those pickup games that happen. But just was a lot of community soccer, and it really helped propel me to want to further my playing career and get involved in the sport after my playing career.
So now you have taken on a role there with Rush, Wisconsin, wearing multiple hats,
Mm-hmm.
but you have the opportunity to impact the next generation and be able to kind of lead the way and encourage them to chase the game in whatever way that means to them and for them. What is your day-to-day like in terms of wearing that director of coaching for the youth academy? What is that like on a week-to-week basis for you in terms of what you're trying to accomplish in the job, maybe some of your duties, responsibilities, etc.?
Yeah, well, just being a part of a club and nonprofit, you wear many hats. So I'm also involved with program outreach, with building partnerships in the community with like YMCA and the local schools here. But one thing that I keep in mind every day is how do we get kids to love the sport? Can we develop that at the young age so they fall in love with the sport so they want to continue with it? I mean, we all know that kids are dropping out around 13 through various sports. And so how can we create an environment where it's fun, where kids want to come back, where they're learning, where they're being challenged, but they love soccer? And, I'm fortunate enough where I get to help out with the older age groups as well. And some of the things I think about with those older, especially girls, is how do we get them to want to come back to the sport after they're playing? How can we get them to start considering coaching and or just refereeing or just some aspect of staying involved? And so but that all stems down to loving the sport. And I think that it's a big weight that we carry as coaches, is to create that environment.
In terms of imparting that love of the game and encouraging that love of the game, are there things that you try to make sure that your coaches are doing in their trainings that creates a safe learning environment, fun learning environment for the kids? Is there anything that you try to make sure is kind of universal in terms of the player experience there at Rush, Wisconsin?
Yeah, when I'm working with my youth academy coaches, especially, I think the biggest thing for me is it has to look game-like, and it has to be like an enjoyable environment. And we should be using guided discovery because we want these players to start thinking for themselves instead of providing the answers. But yeah, it has to look game-like. It has to be enjoyable because it's not fun when kids come and they don't really want to play because you didn't create an enjoyable environment.
Completely. And I think that's touching on where you went with that is right in line with the fact that I've shared this with parents as well, that if your kid is not good at something, they're not going to enjoy it. I mean, like, no one wants to struggle. I mean, we endure the struggle, but most people don't get up every day going, I wonder how many walls I can walk into today. Right? I mean, it's like, nope,
right.
we don't set out. That's not part of the human experience, that we're always trying to figure out, how can I struggle more? It's always, how can I overcome struggle? How can I get out of struggle, etc. And so I think one of the things that parents need to realize, in addition to coaches and clubs, etc., is that your child is going to have a better opportunity to love the sport if they are good at the sport. Like, if their feet don't work because you don't just get out in the yard and play with them, it's not necessarily just your kid's problem. It's the fact that as parents, you have a role to play too, that you can help them. You can spend some time with them and encourage them, and encourage them not just with your voice, but encourage them with your time, and help them, get to a place where, I'm not saying every kid's got to develop into a, Messi type quality player in order to enjoy the game. But I equate it to, your basics in school. Like, if you know your ABCs and you know your numbers, and then that opens the door to be able to, to learn, English and history and science and mathematics. Without numbers and without the letters and being able to spell and read, you're going to struggle, and it is going to be frustrating. And that's kind of what it's like when you're a kid and you can't get your body to do what you want it to do with the ball. And part of that may be the fact that as parents, we're not doing enough to just spend time with our kids and enjoy that time with our kids, so that they can learn the game, love the game, even in the street or in the backyard or, in a park or whatever, not just organized practice. And, I to me, that's an area where I think as a country, we've gotten really busy. I wouldn't necessarily just call it lazy. I think it's that we're just so busy, and parents and schedules and kids and schedules and all of this. And sometimes I think we just don't breathe and take a moment to just go, hey, let's go, have a kickabout in the driveway or in the basement or in, wherever, and just get back to the simplicity of this game, which is simple and complex and beautiful when it's played the right way, and it becomes almost like a work of art when executed at a high level. With your work there with Rush, Wisconsin, you're building and developing coaches and building and developing players and trying to get, obviously the love of the game to stick around beyond 13 and continue to play. When a young girl, for example, because we have the World Cup going on right now in France, when a young girl is coming into the program, do you ever hear any of them talk about dreaming of playing for the national team one day? Is that conversation ever had? And do you all look to inspire them by, saying, hey, you can dream really big, and if you work hard, here's opportunities that can happen?
We hear more of, playing in college as a goal. We do have the benefit of, Lindsey Horan played for Colorado Rush, so we have Lindsay as a great role model for everybody that's in our club. But, I am pretty adamant about taking my girls teams to local opportunities to watch the game so that they can see it. So we're lucky to have University of Wisconsin Badgers women's in our backyard. So I nominate my girls teams to be the ball girls, and we have, Rush at Badgers night. We just went to Forward Madison as a new USL 1 team here in Madison on the men's side. So I try to make sure that at least once a year, if not once a season, we're getting these kids in the club involved with seeing soccer at a higher level so that they can start to dream of it, so yeah.
So when a kid goes to a game like that, what are some of their observations? Do they see that it's a higher level? Do they see that it's faster and better quality? What is that experience, do you think, doing for them that you're observing in the way that they respond to those moments?
Yeah, I think anytime they can watch a game, they're learning. Some of the sideline chatter that I hear has been pretty funny. Hearing what the 10-year-old girls notice in a game, whether it's speed of play or shots or whatever the case is. But most recently when we had a night with Forward Madison, it was pretty neat to sit in the stands and hear some of the conversations that parents are having with their kids. Like, what are you seeing here? What do you think their approach is? And so I think anytime you can watch the game is an opportunity to learn, whether you're passive in watching it or really focused. I think just the more opportunities you can give for exposure is good.
Exposure is definitely good. I think that any chance that you have to experience the higher level of the game, I've often said that if we could pack up everyone in American soccer and all go over to Europe and watch, some matches in Europe, soccer in America would never be the same. Like, we would realize on a massive scale how big the game is globally and how big it could be here in America, even beyond where it is today. And it's grown a lot in the past decades, but there's still so much we could do with the game and growing the game and reaching communities and providing opportunities. And so experience is such a great teacher in that arena that I think, helps open doors when people can see it. It's really hard for people to recognize potential or unmet potential, like what could be. But when you get to see a glimpse of it, it's kind of that Field of Dreams, that old famous baseball movie. If you build it, they will come, kind of thing. Like, if you could experience it, then you'll know. And so you taking that opportunity to take these kids and let them experience higher level soccer is gonna do so much to open their minds to possibility. And I think more coaches and directors of coaching should look to do that, because when a kid does get to experience that, they do get to see that next level or higher quality. They go, wow, it's beyond just me and my 7 or 8 or 9 or 12 teammates. This is much bigger than that. Speaking
Yeah,
of,
well, I think
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I think it falls in line with our job. I mean, we follow the long-term athlete development model that started out of Canada. I think that's part of our job is, we start with the active start. We develop those fundamentals, those motor skills you were talking about with playing in the yard with your parents. But then, eventually we want to get to the active for life stage, whatever that looks like. Whether they're getting involved with their local community club as a volunteer coach, they're coaching full time, they're, playing pickups, in the over 40 league. That's our role as coaches, is to get them active for life, but it starts having a good experience at the very beginning. And so, yeah, I agree.
So, in terms of your job there with Rush, you also work with Rush Select, and can you describe what that program is and how it differs from just Rush Wisconsin?
Yeah, so there's over 48 Rush clubs in the United States. I think there's over like 80 something total, with international clubs as well. And so within all of these clubs, it started out of college with Tim Schultz as the president and CEO. I think he was a youth national team coach for U.S. Soccer at one point. But he started it, and then they started, Virginia Rush came on, and then so on and so forth. And so out of all of the Rush clubs, they hold tryouts in an identification camp, and form teams at each age group starting at U13. And it has been Rush National Select, which I was a part of last year, and now they're reprogramming it to be regional camps, so we can see more kids, give more kids opportunities, and then go to the national pool. But last year I helped out with the 2006 girls. I was the assistant coach, and we did tryouts in Arizona at Casa Grande, and we then took them. We had an A and a B team, and we took them to President's Day tournament in Phoenix, Arizona, and then we took them abroad to Italy, where we competed against Juventus, Roma, Atlanta. So it was really good experience for the girls. I'm excited to continue my participation with it now, especially now that it's changing to regional. So I'll be helping out with the I think it's the U15 girls. I'll be the assistant coach for. But yeah, it'll be Midwest region I'll be helping out with now. And it's fun. You get to meet other coaches, learn from different styles of coaching, meet other players, and coach at a higher level. So it's a really good experience for everyone involved.
In terms of personal philosophy as a coach, from a tactical perspective, what do you like to see your teams play, and what are you trying to get your coaches to understand in terms of a playing philosophy and teaching a way of playing?
I think, well, we kind of adopt one as a club, and that's just like we're an attacking club. Whether we're defending or in the attacking phase, we're trying to get the ball, we're attacking the ball. And so, just staying hungry, staying focused tactically is kind of what we try to implement at Rush Select and then within our home clubs as well.
So very much a protagonist mentality, that we're going to take the action to you whether we have the ball or don't have the ball. Is that kind of a fair summary of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to change from team to team, from club to club. There's going to be variance. I mean, we can't all have the same formation. We can implement one when we play together on a national level, but you have to see what your team is telling you and work with what you have and adapt and adjust and to create the best environment for these players to grow. So it is, it is fluid.
So when you look at these players that are coming up, and your job there with Rush, Wisconsin, in terms of being the director of coaching for the youth academy, you're over the boys and the girls. But I want to talk to you about the girls that are coming up and playing, and then playing on through high school, maybe even into college. You're a part of the Rush Female Coaches Alliance. What are you with that program, with that alliance? What are you hoping to achieve? What are you trying to do?
Yeah, so, well, we were at a Rush Select event a couple years ago, and there was a few women sitting around the table, and we noticed that there was this disparity in representation at one of the highest levels in the organization, which is Rush Select. And so we thought, well, how can we, we preach about a pathway for our players all the time. How can we create or advertise or market a pathway for our female coaches? And so that's kind of how the Rush Female Coaches Alliance started. And I'm just a part of a group of many other women who are involved from around the United States. And one of the things that we worked on most recently is the Emerging Coach Program. And that actually started in my home club, but has now been adopted through the Rush Female Coaches Alliance, and some other Rush clubs are now adopting it as well. But the Emerging Coach Program basically started because there is another Women's Coaches Association in Wisconsin called Wisconsin Women's Soccer Advisory Council. And great group. I'm a region representative for them. And they want to promote promote everybody staying in the game, whether you're a referee, administrator, player, coach. How do you just stay in the game and stay active in it? And they had their first annual coaches symposium, which they brought in Anson Dorrance this last December. It was a great event, very well attended. Males, females, coaches, administrators, lots of different people represented there. And our club decided to sponsor two of our senior athletes to go. And so I worked with our senior coaching staff to nominate two female athletes that they thought showed potential in coaching. And so we paid for them to attend, and I went, of course. And I noticed at the conference that they were just so excited. I mean, how could you not, right? With with being in an environment where you see all of these other people who are so excited about coaching and soccer and it's just like convention. You are just so pumped to be around like-minded people. And I thought, we can't end this here. So I invited them to join me on my sideline during the winter indoor season where I was coaching my U11 competitive girls. And I talked to the parents and I said, hey, this is what's going on. This is an opportunity for not only these high school girls to develop leadership and coaching opportunities, but also for your daughters to see what's next. And it became a really cool opportunity where they sat on my bench and helped assist me a couple games. I gave them duties like, okay, you're going to cover rock. And of course, it's really, non-threatening in my eyes, at least, because it's indoor soccer. It's quick. You can't really mess it up too much. You're really just managing subs and giving them a quick couple tips. It's not really like, as competitive fall or spring season. And they really enjoyed it. We worked on reflecting what went well, what didn't go well, and what they would do better next time. And throughout that indoor season, they had some opportunities to serve as head coach too while I was their assistant. And it was a good experience. And so when I started thinking through this, how can we make this into a program? What are the next steps? And we figured the next step would be we need to encourage these girls to pursue coaching education. How awesome would that be before they even enter their college game? They have their grassroots coaching license. And so we encourage them. We at the time couldn't pay for it. It's something we're working on now as a club to sponsor not only their attendance to the coaches symposium, but also an entry-level coaching course. And fortunate enough for us, they decided that, they wanted to pursue this. And so both of them attended a grassroots coaching course at the same time, passed it. And now we're looking to get them involved into our coaching rotation, whether they come home for a winter break or they're home for summer, and we're working with YMCA during their summer camps and they need some volunteers. But getting them involved so that they know that there's a place for them whenever they're ready to end their playing career and start their coaching career. And we've turned this into, we title it the Emerging Coach Program. We say it's a 6-month process, but you could really adapt it and make it your own. I know not everybody has a Wisconsin symposium in their state, but maybe you have in-house education that you can make them go to, or maybe you have a huge club and you want to nominate 6 senior female athletes a year. It's really up to you, but I think it's a way to address the female coaching shortage issue that we have. And, nobody can argue with how can we promote our own athletes and to push them onto what's next. And so I think it's been a good program for us. I'm excited to do it again this year and see how it transforms. And yeah.
How important is it for a young female player to get the opportunity to play for a female coach? I think this is a piece of American soccer, but I think it goes beyond American soccer. I think it's global soccer, where there is obviously most coaches, if you just look at the numbers, the raw data, most coaches are male. So what do you think the impact is of a young girl getting the opportunity to play for a female coach? How does that inspire them? How does that help them compared to, just playing, for the guys always?
Well, I think it's huge. It shows, it's hard to be what you can't see, right? And if you can't see females in leadership positions, it's really difficult for you to dream to be able to do it someday. But we know that, same-sex role models are important. And, just as you would want a male coach that is, strong and demanding and challenging, but yet, respected, I think you want that for your daughter as well. And so, it's highly important. The research is behind it that, you need same-sex role models out there. And slowly but surely, I think we're getting there. I think, the World Cup, there's 38%, which is an increase. There's 38% of female coaches in the World Cup right now. And that's better than past years, but I think we have a ways to go.
Looking at the women's game in general around the world, and this is a great time every 4 years you have a World Cup cycle that culminates in a World Cup this summer, 2019 being the summer of the Women's World Cup. When you look at the game around the world and the women's game, where do you see the biggest areas that need to be addressed? What are those as you see them being involved in the game where you are?
Are you saying like what issues around the world or where I am?
Well, I'm saying both. Like, what are you seeing locally, but also what are you seeing around the world? Do they line up? Are they the same? Are they different? What kind of things are you seeing or identifying that are areas that need to be addressed in the women's game?
I think support, whatever that looks like, there's support in infrastructure, support in marketing, support in coaching staff, support in pay. U.S. is a lot further along than the rest of the world in a lot of ways. We still have a long ways to go, but, countries are catching up. I really 2 years ago as part of the Rush Mentor program with Tim. Tim Schultz was my mentor, and we watched AC Milan's academy, and we watched the boys play, and it was awesome. And then we watched the girls play, and it was really far behind, even from the teams I was coaching back home, and I was really shocked. And then we went back this last year and took Rush Select and played these club teams, and major improvement from just a year. And AS Roma, their girls side is only 4 years old. 4 years. And that's not an exception. I mean, there's other Italian clubs that are really, really young on the girls' side. So I think it's starting to get there, but more support is needed. Italy is certainly catching up, as we've seen in the World Cup so far. It doesn't happen unless there's people working toward it and are not giving up on it.
When you look at the U.S. women's national team and to see the success that they have had, in the last couple decades, they are the gold standard that everyone else around the world looks at, in terms of the success they've had on the field, and they've reached a standard or basically set a standard of excellence that other countries have been aspiring to reach, and are starting to put in resources and investment to make their women's programs not just legitimate but excellent. When we look at the U.S. women's national team in the way that they're treated domestically, do you think that our women's national team is treated with excellence, in comparison to, say, the U.S. men's national team, or do you think there's still areas there that we need to improve in terms of resources, treatment, funding, etc.?
Well, I think the news speaks for itself. The U.S. women are taking it into their own hands and, working or legally with U.S. soccer on equalizing some of those things because they feel like it's not enough. And I would agree with them. I hope that they find some progress there. But I think right now they're just going to be focusing on the World Cup and then pick up where they left off after.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with you. And, one of the things that, during the 2018 presidential election cycle, working with Eric Winaldo on his campaign, got to know Hope Solo, and she was obviously running as well, and her team. And we had a lot of conversations during the campaign cycle and talking about different issues. And one of the things that we were all kind of discussing, whether that was on public record or even behind the scenes was the fact that it goes beyond equal pay. It's into treatment and flights and hotels and other things that I think the American public probably were unaware of, the disparity in some of those things. And I certainly think that if anyone has earned the right to get treated like royalty, it's our women's national team. They've proven on the field time and time again that they are up for the challenge. And so, obviously hoping that continues with this World Cup for them specifically, and hopefully afterwards, like you said, that they will be able to pick that fight back up and continue to work for equal treatment with the federation. But also, I think it goes beyond even U.S. soccer. I think it goes into CONCACAF, and I think it goes into FIFA in terms of prize money and the way that the global governing body treats the women's game. And when you look at the prize money disparity at this World Cup versus the men's World Cup, et cetera, at some point, I think that we've got to recognize that there is this massive disparity, and it does need to be addressed globally, not just here in the U.S., but globally. I want to ask you a question that I asked some variation of to a lot of our guests, and just get your feedback or your thoughts on it. And that is this: if you were put in charge of U.S. soccer for a day and you had supreme authority, you could do whatever you wanted in your day in charge and set every rule, change whatever you wanted to change. Like, you are in charge. You get to take this culmination of all of your work, leadership, soccer, etc., and put it to bear as the leader of American soccer for a day. What would you do with your day in charge?
Oh, man. That's such a loaded question, man. I would work to support the girls' game more. We're doing such a fantastic job on the women's side, and adding that support for the playing environments, but also through coaching, I think is essential. It needs to filter in to create a better environment overall. So yeah, I would work to find some growth there.
Well, look, that's a good answer. We're always surprised or in terms of the responses we get, and in hearing some variation of that question and where the answer is and what they're looking at. And the one thing I think is common when we ask this question is that there are a lot of areas where we can get better as a country, globally, depending on what the issue is. And it doesn't always mean everything is, Chicken Little, the sky is falling, but it does mean that there are places where we can always look to improve, always be looking to get better, and find those gaps between where we are and where we want to be. And I have no doubt if you were granted that authority for a day, you would get a lot done. And you've showed it in your work so far, in the leadership that you've stepped up in creating programs, creating opportunities, inspiring girls to dream and to lead, etc. Keep up the great work up there in Wisconsin.
Hey, thanks so much. Really appreciate your time today.
Thank you, and we appreciate your time as well. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, no problem.
That is Jess Nash. She is the director of coaching of the Youth Academy with Rush, Wisconsin, also with the Wisconsin ODP and Rush Select. And we need more women like her stepping up and inspiring the next generation to dream big and work harder. And she's doing that up in Wisconsin. If you have a chance, connect with her, find her on social media. You can find her on Twitter, connect with her there at JNova5, and I'm sure she would love to connect with you as well. Our sponsor for the show this half hour is Charity Water. Charity Water provides clean drinking water to people all over the world. They are changing lives one village at a time. Learn more about Charity Water at charitywater.org. We will be right back after this.
No one, no man, no woman, no child should ever have to drink green water with bugs, with algae, with disease in it. Bad water and a lack of toilets kills more people than all the wars in the world. We know how to bring clean drinking water right now to every single person on earth. And when you can bring water into communities, it truly transforms them. It changes everything. Right? You could know that you'd made a difference. You could know that you had truly impacted the life of a family, of a community, of a region. There was either clean water or there wasn't. We believe in a world where every single person has clean and safe water to drink, and we will continue fighting until that happens.
Well, it's been a good day. 1-0, second half just kicking off. Nigeria and South Korea. Own goal in the first half for Nigeria. And we'll see how the rest of this half plays out. And again, coming up a little bit later today, noon Eastern, we have Germany and Spain, and 3 o'clock Eastern, France and Norway. All three interesting matches today, so we'll see how those things go. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Thanks for Jess Nash coming on the show today. Tomorrow we have Yael Averbush West joining the show. Look forward to that chat tomorrow. And the way that this U.S. women's national team is being criticized for going for goals is just silly, and I hope they keep going for goals. I think the tests are going to be getting tougher, but glad they got to enjoy that night last night, and we'll see where it goes from there. So we'll see everybody tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. As always, you can watch live at 9 a.m. Eastern on danielworkman.com, or you can connect with me on Instagram, Twitter at Daniel Workman, or Facebook.com/WRKMN. We'll see everybody tomorrow.